Okay, so in the last class we had been looking at search engines and how they create an index. And we had seen that they have a spider or a crawler that would find a page and then add all the links from there, follow those links, follow more links, and so on. And we saw that spiders could have different properties, and that if you wanted, you could say to them, don't look at this particular stuff. And we mentioned that you don't put your super secret plan for world domination up on the web and then say, but sure, it's okay, I have this spiders thing there that don't look at it. But the main advantage was that if for some reason you had 100 pages and 50 of them were really, really good, and then 50 of them were still under construction, looking at the 100 pages, search engine might have a very different view of the quality of your site than if it just saw the 50 good pages. Search engines respect instructions you give to robots because one of the difficult jobs a search engine has is to separate good pages from bad pages. If you wrote the pages, if you're the author of the pages, the owner of the website, and you think they suck, then that's probably a very good sign, that's information that the web browser can use, or the search engine can use in terms of deciding whether to include them or not. So if you don't like them and you wrote them, there's something it can use there. Okay. Now, in the past, there were some issues with putting things in Word documents and in PDFs. But in fairness now, most search engines would have no problem with those. It might be a bit of extra work for them, and it might, for example, cause a page to be ranked lower than it might otherwise be. It's possible. So that if you have all your stuff in a Word document up on the web, as opposed to a regular HTML page, it might decide that that's something that's less desirable. Similarly with a PDF, Flash is a big problem. So if you spend hours and hours and hours, or hours of someone else's money, hours in someone else's time, and you pay them lots of money to do it, and create a super sexy, really cool website in Flash, with cool text and animations and swishing sounds and stuff, that's great. It'll look really, really good. But when a search engine comes along and just go, oh yeah, that's a page with some Flash in it, that's all it knows. So a lot of search engines don't go into Flash to see what's there. So if all of the content of your page or the navigation for your page or really, really important information on your page is in Flash, then that's a problem. So it's a problem for Flash too, because it's one of the reasons why you might decide not to use Flash. Because okay, you can make a cool site, but no one's going to find it on Google. Well, you may as well have not bothered then. So that can be a problem. And of course, another problem for Flash is that if you people on their iPads or iPhones can't view the page either. Okay. The refresh rate is an issue. The internet is big, and even a company like Google with its many resources can't make a new copy of everything on the internet, every 5 minutes. So most search engines would have an algorithm that decides how often their crawlers should return to a particular site. So initially it might say I don't know how this works, but you might imagine that initially it might come once a week. And if after 3 weeks nothing changes, it might say, well, I'll come back once a month or something. If it comes back, if it comes once a week and it's changed between 1 week and the next, it'd say, well, I might come back every day. See how quickly this thing updates or changes. If it comes back every day and it's changing all the time, I'd say, well, I better come back then every hour or something. And so depending on the website, it might come more or less often. Might refresh it more or less often. Okay? No. So some search engines might copy the entire text of a document. But that's not the terribly efficient thing to do. I mean, if you were building a search engine tomorrow, you might decide to save on your resources using a number of different options. The first thing you could do is exclude things we call stop words. So if you wanted to, let's say I was giving out loads of handouts, right? And you had to manually create some sort of a system where you could instantly find the handout in which I talked about whatever. Okay? You could have a copy of that handout, but instead of typing in every single word of the handout, you could just leave out the as and the des and the ands and the ins and the ofs and the buts, and just do the main words, the keywords, the important words, and leave out the rest. So that would take up a lot less space, and you'd have less to search through when you're trawling through things later. And it would do just as well. It would tell you where, you'd know then that that's page number 17, and you'd know to go to page 17. You might have another one that has all the words on page 18. So that's a technique indexes or search engines use. Another thing that they do, and this is quite important, is that they might limit the amount of text that they read. So if you have a web page that has, say, 3,000 words, a search engine might decide, well, I'm only going to read the first 1,000 words of a page. That should be enough to figure out what it's about. And if I don't know what it's about after 1,000 words, maybe, I still won't know after 3,000. So that might be a problem. Do you know the way sometimes if you're writing something long, you can sort of start with the main point and the main topic and then elaborate on it. But sometimes you might, a bit like the punchline of a joke, you might be building up to something. And maybe the most important part of the document is in the bottom third, not the top third. Well, if that's the case, then that might be a problem for you. Because by the time you get to the important part, the search engine's gone home. It might reasonably think that, doesn't get to the point in 1,000 words, I'm not interested in reading the rest of it. So that could be a problem. So in general, it's probably a good idea if your page is about something that you talk about that thing first. So there, when you're writing an article for a magazine, you might do things a different way. But for the web, you should really get to the point quickly and then elaborate on it perhaps. Now, if I am looking for, if I have a page about bicycle wheels, okay, and if someone is looking, and if someone does a Google search for bicycle wheels, and there's my page which has, the word bicycle 50 times and wheels 30 times, and there's another page that has bicycles 5 times and wheels 5 times. Well, then mine would score higher. Mine would probably put mine first because the search words that they're looking for are there more often. But at the same time, 50 was probably a bad choice, because if I have the word bicycle, if I have bicycle, wheels, if it's all over the place, you might actually trigger a spam detector. If the same words appearing over and over and over and over again, well, then maybe someone is just, taking the piss, trying to make the page look more useful than it is. So that's always the problem when you're trying to optimize your content so that search engines can find it. Obviously, you want to make it easier for the search engine to match you up with someone who's looking for your stuff. But if you go too far, then you can cause problems. You might trigger a threshold where it says, actually, no, this is a made-up page, just trying to fool me. Okay. I mean, in the early days, for example, you might have had a bicycle hire or something, and if someone was looking for bicycle hire Cork, it would find this page. When you go to the page, they'd manage to work in every county in Ireland. So if someone said bicycle hire Donegal, the page would also come up, which is kind of stupid, because if I'm in Cork looking for bicycle hire, I'm not going to go to Donegal anyway. So all you've done is managed to use up some of my time and your resources on a fool's errand. But we'll talk more about things like that later. Okay, so So a lot of search engines would have a threshold where, okay, if someone is looking for bicycles, and the term comes up more in page 1 than page 2, then that's good. Page 1 is better than page 2. However, beyond a certain number of times, that's just someone trying to fool you. And that's actually no good at all. And you'd wonder how many times you would have to say the same word in an article, So, a search engine is going to come back, if you say I'm looking for this, 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 and this, it'll come back with all the pages that have all those 5 things. If 2 pages have all of those 5 things, then it must decide which one it should rank higher. And there are fairly elaborate algorithms that different search engines use to decide what to do. And that's their secret sauce. That's what makes one better than another. So they don't tell you too much about that, but they do tell you enough so that you can improve the way things work. So improving how you rank or improving how you score is very important. And if you do that in a bad way, that's called spamming or black hat SEO. SEO is search engine optimization. And that can cause you to be blacklisted or go to the back of the queue. So you don't want to trigger some alarm that the search engine thinks you're trying to fool it. Now we're going to talk a lot about search engine optimization over the next few classes. Now, we're going to think a little bit now about how you search using a search engine. We saw with a directory that you kind of browse through a hierarchical list of categories. And as we know with a search engine like Google, you just put in the things you're looking for. Okay? But there are actually different features. So you can use a search engine in more advanced ways as well. One way that's useful for developers is an API that would allow you to write an application or a program that could connect up to a search engine and pull its results in. So for example, there's a Google Maps API where you can plug into Google Maps on your website and do stuff like that. So a lot of them might feature something like that. Now, localized searching is really important as well. So if I was to type in, let's say I go to Google and look for pizza. Am I still connected up? Okay, so looking here we have, so Domino's here, this was an ad, okay, and you can see Google has gone to great trouble to highlight the fact that this is an ad, okay, and over here there may be some ads as well down here. No, there's none, okay, so that's the only ad. And it's no great surprise then that it's given me the Wikipedia page on pizza, because that's probably a very good resource for people interested in pizza. It's certainly a good place to start. If you've nothing to go on, Wikipedia is a good place to start. Google thinks the same. Okay? If I had put in, pizza, recipes, what's the thing that people are allergic to? Gluten free or something, it could give me a whole more specific set of results. Now, we have apache.ie, okay? Let's face it, Apache is not the biggest pizza company in the world, okay? So why is it coming up there just after Wikipedia, like? Do you know? I mean, Wikipedia, yeah, I understand Wikipedia is big, important, useful. Apache Pizza number 2, why is that? Well, it knows I'm in Bishopstown. Do you mean? It knows there's an Apache pizza. It knows that the nearest pizza to me is Apache. We know that to be the case, don't we? Well, shock horror, Google knows it too. I mean, they did drive a car to your house. They figured out a lot of things, Google has. Okay? And then Domino's, 4-star pizza. Is there Domino's? Where's Domino's? Where's the nearest Domino's? Don't know. Is the one on Patrick Street? On Patrick Street, on Washington Street, is that Domino's or is that 4-star?
It's both.
Hmm?
It's both, I think, on each side.
Both. Okay. and so on. Okay? So it knows where I am. Okay? It also knows, look, that I prefer my search results in English. Okay? If you are Polish, for example, you might find that your searches come back different because it might decide that you like to look at stuff in Polish too. You might have your browser set that way, or it just might have figured out that about you. Which brings us to the most important thing. Okay? It's knowledge of the individual. Someone said once that on the internet, if you're not paying for something, you're not the customer, you're the product. And like Gmail costs Google a lot of money to run, you know. Google Chat, I mean, you know, I don't think it pops up ads in Google Chat or anything. That's not making them money. There are some ads in your Gmail, aren't there? Sometimes, but Blogger costs Google a lot of money to keep running, and you know, unless you put ads on there, it's not really generating any revenue. So why does it bother with all these things? Well, because you send your email through Gmail, Google can figure out some things about you. You know, when you do your search and you click on certain things, I mean, when you do searches, you express into Google that you're interested in certain things. When it comes back with results and you click on certain things, you're saying to Google, I'm interested in those things. So Google knows an awful lot about you. And it's not like there's someone sitting in Google's HQ in California or in Dublin reading your email, but there is an algorithm reading your email. You know, so if you and your friends start sending emails about a trip you're planning to Edinburgh, pretty soon you might all start seeing ads for cool things to do in Edinburgh. No, they still haven't devised an algorithm that makes all this seem not creepy. I mean, if you mention a place to someone and then you start seeing ads for it, that's just plain creepy. You know? So they need to figure out how to do that. That could be an interesting research project, how to not creep people out. But think for a minute, you know, if someone had everything you ever searched for, everything you ever clicked on as a result of those searches, every ad you ever clicked on, and every email you ever sent and received, they could probably tell an awful lot about you. You know? I'd say there's a good chance Google knows more about me than my wife does. Or certainly there's things Google knows about me that she doesn't. But think about that, you know? Like, if everything you do, someone has that somewhere, you could figure out a lot. And so Google uses not just where you are, the obvious stuff like where you are and the language that your browser set in and what you've searched for. Obviously, if I'm searching for pizza, it's not going to give me results for bicycle parts, you know. But also what Google knows about me. I mean, if Google knew that I was allergic to, what did I say it was again? Gluten. If Google had figured that out about me, it might actually have put a pizza place that does gluten-free pizza, you know, way high up there. There was an interesting case in the UK where some politician was giving out about ads on the party's website. And he's saying, I know, like, we're hard up for money, but, you know, really, like, advertising hookers and, you know, prostitutes and stuff is just, you know, really a bit of a stretch too far. Until someone had to explain to him the reason he was seeing those ads was because of the things Google thought he was interested in. You know, that it said more about him than it did about the party. So what I'd like you to do there, which is in a way it's kind of a stupid exercise, but I'd like you to get into little groups there and talk about the things that maybe Google knows about you that maybe not everyone else does. But of course, those are not the things you usually discuss in class either. But have a think about it anyway. Have a think about it anyway for a little minute. Or maybe some hypothetical, some friend of yours. I have this friend and Google might know this about him. The question is that while you're signed in? Well, this is the thing, right? If you sign in to read your Gmail or your CIT mail, because that's Gmail as well, and then you'd go do a search, like you're still signed in. But even if you're not signed in, there may be cookies on your machine that would identify you as being you. And even if you're not signed in, your IP address might be associated with you. So if you really wanted to be on the web, but sort of under the radar, you'd need to be never logging in. Well, you'd have to log in obviously to read your mail. Yeah, but once you log out, you'd have to log out, then wipe all the cookies from your browser, and then change your IP address. Which, if you're dynamically allocated your IP address, that's not a big deal, But if you're at home, for example, and you turn on your router and you get a new IP address when there's a power cut, basically, you might have the same IP address for months and months and months. And then it only takes you logged in once with the new IP address to connect you up to the old you. So there are things that can identify you other than just your being logged in. And also there's the physical infrastructure of the machine. I mean, the machine has a unique ID as well that can be accessed. And I think Intel even introduced a thing in Microsoft where the serial number of the chip, could be read, and they would say it's for security, so someone couldn't log into your bank account and stuff. But it also meant you couldn't, change into your Superman costume and be Superman, and then change out and be Clark Kent again. That you'd always be the same person. That's why Facebook wants you to log in everywhere as well. Just as when you go to a website, you can log in with your Facebook ID instead of a whole other one. Just want you to have like one identity. Makes it easier to track you and put all those pieces together. If you can combine that then with your credit card, then and your Tesco club card, then we know everything you buy as well. We can connect all these pieces up, and you get to the situation then where Amazon starts shipping you stuff before you order it, which we've seen them get a patent for recently. So have a think there about, you have this friend who Google might know this about him.